Okay, hello everyone. I am Sarah Strnad from Lab Shul. Welcome to Resist Burnout, a 15-minute weekly call to restore, regenerate, and return to who you are. Whatever your background, your personal rituals, practices, or religions, this is a space for you. And whether you're calling in every week now, or this is your first time calling, or you're listening later in the week, I know there is the need for this call, otherwise you wouldn't be calling or listening. I know this past week, a lot of us have continued to think about gun violence and gun reform in this country and have been really inspired by the young folks down in Florida taking a really powerful leadership role. And so that might be on the forefront of everyone's mind this week, though there are so many issues that I know many of us still think about and work on a regular basis. So we're going to have a call today with a short meditation from Rhonda Rosen, and then we're going to have a guest inspirational speaker, Zahara Zahav. So let me first introduce Rhonda. She is a meditation practitioner and has been doing this really important work since 1973 and has been leading mindfulness and meditation for the past 10 years or so. And we're really honored that Rhonda continues to be a presence on our calls to help us ground and focus and take space away from everything else. So I want to welcome Rhonda to the call.
Thank you, Sarah. I know that I'm vacillating between hope and despair, and I have to monitor my engagement with the news in order to self-regulate so I can keep myself steady. And for those of you on the front lines, the need becomes really obvious. So how can this little 15 minutes of timeout be helpful? Unmitigated arousal, which comes from fear and anger, wears us out, and we become mentally confused, and prolonged over time, we become ill. So we're learning to self-regulate. So it's a skill we can develop and we practice during these sessions. We want to develop an internal home base which is independent of all these external demands, to find an internal steady point so we're not simply tossed about by circumstances. We're going to take these few minutes of time out of striving and rest here. Even if your self-critical mind is screaming at you, that's okay. Let the discursive mind be so much noise and return back to the feeling of just resting here. We've declared a timeout from any kind of creating or fixing, and all the work of self-improvement can cease. So can you give yourself permission to rest for these few minutes? And I'm hoping you are finding a comfortable position and feel safe enough right now to let your guard down and move inward and continue breathing. Feeling the breath at the nostrils, neutral and subtle. You can feel the inhale and the exhale and the transition in between. And each time the attention wanders, just very gently bring it back. And the mind can be so predictably busy, and you cannot make it be quiet, but you can practice putting this sensation of the breath in the foreground. And the breath breathes all by itself. With just enough energy in your attention that it rests so gently on the continuous movement of the breathing, and there's nothing to control. And each time the attention wanders, very gently bring it back. So good to take some time outside of time with no demands or expectations. This breath and this moment just breathing itself. And if you like, the attention can move to feel the body simply resting here alive from head to toe. Letting the muscles of the face and the eyes and the mouth get soft. Feeling the eyes resting. Seeing is passive and receptive. and feeling the breath at the nostrils. The mouth and the jaw and the chin and the cheeks, all the social muscles have this chance to just let go. And feeling the ears and the little muscles around the ears. Hearing is also passive and receptive. And you can feel the neck and the shoulders, letting the shoulders soften, and there's nothing to carry with you right now. And feeling the arms and the hands, and the weight of the arms and the temperature of the hands. The hands will warm as you relax and let go. And when you're ready, the attention can move to the upper back and the chest, feeling what it feels like to be alive in this body, and all the organs are functioning all on their own. The lungs expand and contract, and you might feel the movement of the rib cage, or feel the diaphragm or the beating of your own heart. And then when you're ready, the attention can move to the middle of the back and the abdomen and the trunk of the body, breathing. And you can tie this sensation, if you like, to a memory or an imagining a time of comfort and ease or enormous strength. Some time or place when you felt restored, or you remember who has your back. Or imagining the other resistance workers standing with you, remembering our collective power. And the whole time, here's the body, and the breath continues to breathe all by itself. And you can feel the hips and the pelvis, your weight supported, and the breath moves here too. And the legs, the thighs, the knees, and the calves, and the feet, and the weight of the feet. Stable, gravity is dependable, and the feet are supported. Nowhere to go, nothing to do, nothing to create or fix, just resting here. And returning as you're ready to the breath that's still breathing all by itself. And when you're ready, your eyes will open and you can bring your attention back to the context of this room. Very good. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Rhonda. As always, we really appreciate you helping us take time out of time and remember to breathe and remember that there are other people who are standing with us no matter where we might be. So I know a lot of us call in on a regular basis, and folks call in from California and Pennsylvania and Florida and Massachusetts and Vermont and DC and all over the place. And people who are on this call work on immigrant rights, healthcare access, queer rights, rights for refugees. Some people are politicos or political staffers or are thinking of running for office. And I just want to let everybody know our guest speaker today is really an amazing cross-section of a lot of the folks who are on this call. Zahara Zahav is a community organizer at Jews for Racial and Economic Justice here in New York City. She organizes the Caring Majority campaign, a movement of older New Yorkers, people with disabilities, family caregivers, and home care workers fighting for universal long-term care and quality care jobs. The campaign is aiming to win a feminist economy in New York State that values care and care work, and a society that recognizes the need of all of these in order for us to survive and thrive. So at this point, I want to turn the call over to Zahara and let her share some words of inspiration and some words about her work with us. Zahara, thanks so much.
Thank you, and thank you both. I really appreciate the space that you've created today and that you've been creating this year. I know for many people, this is just a very needed breath, so thank you all. So I'll start off just by telling you all a little bit about myself and telling you about sharing a story with you about what brings me to this work, and really starting to get into some of the very deep connections between the themes of this call, resisting burnout, with a lot of very enormous and critical political ideas related to sustainability and what we are going to need both individually and also collectively to get to a different future. So as was said, my name is Zahara Zahav. I am a community organizer at Jews for Racial and Economic Justice, and we are based in New York City, and I organize with a campaign called the Caring Majority Campaign, which is actually a statewide coalition. Our coalition is made up of older New Yorkers, people with disabilities, family caregivers, and home care workers. Our campaign's fight is to win, as was said, a truly feminist economy in New York State. And what we think that means is that in a true feminist economy, care and care work would be deeply valued and respected. In order to win that kind of an economy, we actually believe that our society needs to be restructured. And it needs to be restructured around the truth of how much we need each other to survive and thrive. Our policy goal is to achieve universal long-term care in New York State and to create dignified care jobs, which are the fastest growing job sector right now. People may know that our population is very quickly shifting toward an enormous increase of people who are aging and needing care in their homes. So what we want is to have that care be a right for people to actually have the right to stay in their homes and to stay in their communities. And for the people who are providing that work to be doing work that is respected and also valued in terms of pay and benefits. So to tell you a little bit about my own care story, and just to share with you all, our movement actually believes that all of us have a care story. We know that living in this world means that you have very likely been touched by our need as humans for care, and or the work of providing care. So that's actually where our name, the Caring Majority, comes from. So one part of my own care story is that when I was 14 years old, my grandfather, my mom's dad, he reached a point in his life where he was needing more support throughout the day to get through daily activities like cooking, cleaning, other things like that. And I remember visiting his home one day before he was living with us, and I was looking at his pillbox. I don't know if people know those pillboxes that they say like MTW. They're like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, etc. I was looking at that. I was sitting on his kitchen table, and it was literally overflowing. The little Monday, Tuesday, etc. boxes would not close. And that was because it was filled with redundant and unnecessary medicines that he kept refilling because no one knew exactly what medicines he was taking. No one was watching closely enough. And that's just one memory I have of, one of the moments before our family decided that it would be really good for him and good for us for him to move in with us. So later that year he did. And as I said, I was 14. I was just starting high school. And it was a time when my own needs for support were also sort of rapidly increasing. High school was just a very, it was a challenging time. And meanwhile, my mom was working her butt off. She had gone back to school to finish her degree, and she was working really hard. So I have these memories from that year of coming home after school, and I would make myself a bowl of cereal for dinner. My mom would often be out working or at a class, and I'd get my bowl of cereal and I'd look in on my grandpa and make sure that he'd also eaten something. That was part of what I needed to do when I got home. And then I'd sit down, I'd like plop down on this big chair in our living room. And right around like 5 o'clock or so, I would turn on the Gilmore Girls. And part of what I actually had to do was I had to turn it up really, really loud because in the next room, my grandfather would be playing his baseball radio at full volume. And for people who don't know, a baseball radio is a regular radio, but it's a radio where you only listen to baseball, which was what he did. And he had a hearing disability, so it would always be really loud. So one day, actually, I remember he poked his head out from his room into the living room where I was sitting, and he stood there, and he was sort of watching the Gilmore Girls over my shoulder. And I remember he said, something like, "This is not baseball." I remember I looked at him and I was like, yeah, that's true. But he said, "But I really see why you like it." And this moment might seem very small to people, but for me, as he was getting older and he was really developing a strong form of dementia, this was a very powerful moment for me where I felt seen by him. And actually after that day, this thing happened where he would wait until the Gilmore Girls was over to turn on his radio, which was actually sort of odd because I don't know that he remembered that moment. But it was a small act that for me represented one of the big lessons from those years, which was that this daily work of, sharing space and caring for one another actually makes us more whole, it makes us stronger, and it makes us better collectively. When we realize that I need you and you need me, as opposed to the message that our society sends, that the best of us don't need anything from anyone, and that strength comes from being infallible, young, and able-bodied, right? That's the message that our society sends. When we see that that's actually a lie, and that lie actually harms many of us who are aging, who are already living with a disability and or illness, or who will be living with a disability and or illness, when we actually see the tension between that message and the truth of our lives, it prompts us to imagine a very different world. In that world, it's our vulnerability, actually. It's our interconnectedness to each other, our interdependence, as we say, our collective responsibility for each other. That's where we actually get our power. And that's the world that the caring majority wants to build. So this call, the Resist Burnout call, as I understand it, it's urging us to care for ourselves and for each other in our work. And the work of the caring majority is very aligned with that. And we also know that care is deeply political. We absolutely cannot build a more sustainable world if we don't reckon with the way that our current capitalist economy pushes most of us and our resources to the brink of exhaustion and depletion. It also convinces us that our needs are in competition, kind of like the way that, my Gilmore Girls and my grandfather's baseball radio, we would just turn them up louder and louder, right? That actually getting the care we need is a matter of personal burden, right? As opposed to what's really true, which is that the great majority of us, seniors, people with disabilities, family caregivers, home care workers, that we are all facing what can feel like a very dehumanizing question of how to afford to stay in our homes and communities because our society has been built for a single type of body and mind, right? So unless we really grapple with these things, we cannot actually build the sustainable world that we need. And we believe that if our Caring Majority campaign is successful, that yes, we will win universal long-term care and dignified care jobs, that more of us will be able to stay in our homes and communities as we age and have disabilities. But we'll also win when all of us are actually moving more slowly, because more of us will actually be getting our needs met. We'll win when our humanity is prioritized over our ability to produce. And we'll also win when the labor of care and care work that has largely been done by women for millennia, and especially women of color and working class and poor women, when that work is valued and respected, that's when we'll have won. So if you want to join us and build a feminist economy here in New York State, or if you want to learn more, you can go to www.postcards.care. That's the plural of postcard. And on that site, you can tell Governor Cuomo that we applaud that he introduced a women's agenda for New York State, but that we insist that a true women's agenda for 2018 would value care and care work, as it does not currently. At this website, www.postcards.care, you can also share your own care story, as I did today, along with our campaign demands and goals. I'll list a couple of our goals and then I'll end. And again, thank you all so much. So number one, for this year's state budget, we're fighting for home care, which is the fastest growing sector of work and one that's made up of 93% of women and predominantly women of color, that home care be included in the governor's commitment to investing in the New York State workforce. Number two, we are demanding that we clear the waiting lists of over 16,000 seniors across New York State who are waiting every single day to receive the home care that they need. We have a few other demands that you can learn about on our website, newyorkcaringmajority.org, and you can also email me. My name is Zahara, Z-A-H-A-R-A, @jfreg.org. If you have any questions and you want to get involved and build with us. So I'll end. I just want to end with some words from a group called Sins Invalid, who wrote 10 principles of disability justice, which are core principles for the Caring Majority work. And these words are about the principle of sustainability, which I felt was very relevant to this phone call. So they say, we pace ourselves individually and collectively to be sustained long-term. Our embodied experience guides us toward ongoing justice and liberation. So as we say in my synagogue, Amen. Thank you all so much, and hit me up with any questions, visit our website, please send a postcard to Governor Cuomo, and thank you all so much.
Zahara, thank you so much for that great call. It was really powerful to hear what your campaign is working on. I think you did an excellent job of relating that work to why we all gather on this call every week. We have one life and one body to do all this work with, and we use this time to restore ourselves and be inspired by the great work that other people around the city, the state, and the country are doing. So I really want to thank you for sharing your work and your words of inspiration with all of us. I want to remind everyone to please, after the call is over, post to the Facebook group either a picture of where you were while you listened to this call, or some words that are on your mind and heart after having some time to meditate or hearing about Zahara's work with JFRG and the Caring Majority. We'll have another call next week, and I want to thank you all for all the work you do and for taking the time out to take care of yourselves and each other. Have a good week. Bye.